Hey, good evening. Welcome to Daisy Blue and You. Tonight we're talking paper genocide and indigenous land theft. For more than 4 centuries, indigenous land in what is now the United States didn't just disappear. It was converted, and the conversion happened through paper. When people think of land theft, they usually think of battles, of soldiers, of forced marches and broken treaties. But those events were just the first phase. The permanent transfer, the part that made disposition stick, happened in courthouses and land offices, probate courts, federal bureaus, and congressional chambers. And tonight we want to break down the system. We're going to start with phase 1, the claim. So European colonial charters declared territory claimable if it was not possessed by a Christian prince. Indigenous occupation did not equal recognized sovereignty under colonial doctrine. The legal framework set the stage for overlapping claims on land that was already inhabited, cultivated, and governed. The land was declared available on paper long before it was physically occupied. The second phase was pressure and treaty. Military campaigns, militia violence, and economic coercion were often followed by treaties. Treaties acknowledged the indigenous nations, treaties that defined boundaries. They recognized land ownership. They also contained cession clauses. Large territories were reduced to smaller reserves, the smaller ones then smaller still. And when treaties were violated, Congress simply passed new legislation. The paper trail shows the pattern: recognition, reduction, reinterpretation, and then reassignment. Phase 3 was allotment, the breakup of communal land. In 1887, the General Allotment Act fractured tribal land into individual parcels. Communal holdings were surveyed and divided. Each enrolled individual received an allotment, often held in a federal trust. But here's the mechanism. After allotments were issued, any surplus land, meaning land not allotted to an individual, was open to non-indigenous settlement. Millions of acres transferred this way, legally recorded, stamped, filed in county deed books. And then probate fragmentation came in phase 4. When allotment holders died, their land didn't simply pass intact. Under federal probate rules, allotments were divided among heirs. Over generations, parcels became fractioned into dozens, then hundreds of parcels interest. Some heirs were declared incompetent, guardians were appointed, leases were signed, mineral rights were severed. Eventually, forced sales were approved by courts, again recorded legally. In phase 5 came tax foreclosure. In many states, once land was patented into fee simple status, it became taxable. If taxes weren't paid, often because owners were unaware, displaced, or restricted from managing the land, the property was auctioned. Sheriff's sales, tax deeds, quiet title actions, these documents still exist in county archives. The chain of title frequency read: allotment patent, probate division, tax delinquency, sheriff's sales, private owner. The land never vanished, it just changed hand through procedure. And then came phase 6, racial reclassification. We've all heard about this, the whole legal identity change on paper. You are still who you are. They just reclassified you as colored or mulatto to steal your land. So, land ownership was tied to legal identity. If an individual was reclassified in the census or vital records, labeled colored or mulatto, or otherwise removed from tribal designation, their eligibility for land rights could be affected. The roles determined entitlement. Entitlement determined allotment. Paper determined identity, and identity determined land. It's not abstract. These enrollment cards, Dawes rolls, census sheet, vital records, court petitions, it all rolled back around to, if you weren't tribal, if you weren't indigenous, you basically lost your allotment to your land. It was stolen. And then came phase 7, institutional consolidation. The final stage often involved consolidation. Railroad companies, mining corporations, oil interest, timber companies, state governments, federal agencies, surface rights separated from mineral rights. Leases extended for decades, corporate ownership normalized. What began as tribal territory became fee simple property embedded in modern title systems. The original indigenous ownership remained visible only to the earliest link of the chain of the title. This is paper genocide. Just because it doesn't talk about, it does talk about your identity, but let's be real, there was more to paper genocide than just the changing of your identity. It took your land, it took your sovereignty. So, we have to talk in depth about paper genocide and what it does. There's a book wrote by Mark Perkins that talks about land theft, the paper genocide. I just finished reading it. And Paper Genocide, the documentary record of colonial United States indigenous land theft. This book documents state by state, county by county, each case that is documented that we could find, the indigenous individual or community, the tribal affiliation or role reference, the acreage, the land classification, the legal instrument used, the racial classification recorded, the buyer or intermediary if it is recorded, the subsequent transfer history, the present day ownership when traceable, where records are missing, burned courthouses, sealed probates, destroyed registries, the absence of documentary evidence of disruption. This is a forensic record, not a narrative. It's a chain title investigation, and it matters so much because it is a book that could possibly be a tool for finding land. Modern property systems rest on these transfers: mortgage markets, energy leases, state land, private estates, corporate holdings. Paperwork is foundation, guys. The record is accessible. Land patents are searchable. Probate dockets exist. Deed books remain indexed. The disposition was not chaotic. It was administrative. It was repeatable, structured, legally engineered. And quite honestly, this book, Paper Genocide, the documentary record of colonial United States indigenous land theft by Mark Perkins, it doesn't ask you to adopt a position. It doesn't ask you to rely on belief. It provides the documents, the organized record. It allows verification because the truth of land transfer is not hidden in myth. It's preserved in ink. Open the archives, follow the paper, draw your own conclusions. Now, I'm going to tell you not every piece of land that was stolen is in this book, but the ones that we could find were. You want to know about your land, you got to do your genealogy. You got to know where you come from, who your people are. But this book is going to help you. If you know you have land, you know what state or what county it's in, this is going to help you possibly find it. And then there's other books that I've talked about in other videos that can help you have the tools to regain your land, regain your sovereignty and your identity. And we're going to talk more about that in the next couple of videos that I do for you guys. Tonight, this is it. Go grab the book. I'm going to put the link in the captions, and you guys have a great night.